Captain Nexara stood on the observation deck of the mining station and watched her world burn. Orange flames danced across the cities below, sending thick black smoke into the purple sky of Kalara Prime. Her forearms trembled as she gripped the metal railing. Her large compound eyes reflected the fires that consumed everything she had ever known. The Vorthan ships hung in space like dark metal vultures. 12 massive warships circled her planet, their weapons ready to strike again. They had come without warning 3 days ago. No messages, no demands. It's just death from the sky. Dexara was not a soldier. None of her people were. The Zephyrians had never needed to fight. They were artists and thinkers. They painted beautiful pictures and carved amazing sculptures from the rare crystals they found deep in their world's mountains. They spent there days making music that could make other species cry with joy. War was something they only read about in the histories of other worlds, but now war had found them. "Captain," said Engineer Kolmos from behind her. His voice shook with fear. "The communication array is ready. We can send the distress signal." Dexara turned to face him. Kolmos was young, barely past his first molting. His green shell still had the bright shine of youth. Like all Zephyrians, he looked like a cross between a mantis and a butterfly. His wings were folded against his back and his antenna twitched with nervous energy. "Are you certain it will reach beyond our system?" she asked. "Yes, Captain. Subspace transmitter is our most powerful device. Any ship with proper receivers within 50 light-years should pick up our signal." 50 light-years. It seemed so far, yet so small compared to the vast galaxy around them. Dexara had studied the star maps. She knew there were hundreds of different species out there. Some were peaceful like her people, others were warriors. Many were traders who cared only for profit. "What should we offer?" asked Kolmos. Dexara thought carefully. What did they have that others might want? Tell them about our crystal mines, the rare metals we extract. Promise them mining rights and cultural exchange. Tell them we will share our art and our music, and if no one comes? The question hung in the air like poison. Below them, another explosion lit up the night. The Vorthan were taking their time. They could have destroyed the planet in hours, but they wanted the infrastructure intact. They wanted slaves, not rubble. "Then we will face our end with dignity," Dexara said quietly. Kolmos nodded and walked to the communication console. Clawed fingers moved over the controls with practiced skill. Device hummed to life, its crystal core glowing bright blue. "This is Captain Nexara of Kalara Prime Colony," she began, speaking into the transmitter. "We are under attack by the Vorthan hegemony. Our people are peaceful miners and artists. We have no military ships or weapons. We cannot defend ourselves." She paused, watching another fire bloom on the surface of her world. "We call out to any species willing to help us. In return, we offer access to our rare mineral deposits and full cultural exchange. We have crystals that sing when touched by starlight. We have metals that remain cool even in the heat of a star. We have art that has moved visitors to tears of wonder." Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "We do not ask for much. Even a single ship willing to help us evacuate our children would be a blessing. We know we are far from the major trade routes. We know we are small and unimportant in the galaxy. But we are alive, and we wish to remain so." The signal broadcast into space, riding waves of folded space-time toward distant stars. It would take time to reach other worlds, time they might not have. On the planet below, the Vorthan had begun landing troops. The tall, gray-skinned warriors moved through the mining towns with ruthless efficiency. They wore black armor that made them look like walking shadows. Their weapons fired bolts of red energy that could melt through stone. The Zephyrians tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Some hid in the deep mines, but the Vorthan had scanners that could find them. Others tried to surrender, but the invaders seemed more interested in showing their power than accepting defeat. "Captain," came another voice from the communication station. It was Vinalta, their senior technician. "We are receiving acknowledgement signals from several worlds." Dexara's heart jumped. "What do they say?" "Most are just automatic responses, but 3 have sent actual messages. Benalta Santana drooped. The Galactic Council says they cannot interfere in local conflicts. The Merchant Guild says the risk is too high for the potential profit. The Alteron Republic says they are sorry for our loss. Each rejection hit like a physical blow. Vexara had known it was unlikely that help would come, but hearing the cold refusals made it real. "Are there any other responses?" she asked. "One. More signal is coming in now," said Vinalta. "It's from a species called humans. I've never heard of them." "What do they say?" Vinalta frowned as she read the message. "It's strange, Captain. They are not offering to help. They're asking for detailed information about the Vorthan fleet, ship types, weapons, troop numbers. They want to know everything about our attackers. Why would they need that information if they are not coming to help?" "I do not know. Should I send them what they want?" Dexura looked out at her burning world. What did they have to lose? Send them everything. Every scan, every detail about the Vorthan ships and soldiers. As the information flowed through space toward the unknown humans, Dexura allowed herself a small hope. Perhaps these humans were different. Perhaps they would come. She had no idea that her desperate call for help had just reached the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Admiral Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her desk. The blue light cast strange shadows across her weathered face as she studied the data from Kalara Prime. Every detail about the Vorthan fleet was there. Ship types, weapon signatures, troop movements. The Zephyrians had been very thorough. 12 heavy cruisers, said Commander Rodriguez from across the room. He was her tactical officer, a thin man with quick eyes who had served with her for 8 years. "That's a lot of firepower for a mining colony." "Too much," Chen agreed. She touched the display, and the image rotated, showing the Vorthan ships. From different angles, they brought enough force to conquer a military world. Why use all that against peaceful miners? "Maybe they want to send a message," suggested Lieutenant Park, the youngest officer in the room. "Show other worlds what happens when the Vorthan Empire decides to expand." Chen nodded slowly. She had read the intelligence reports about the Vorthan hegemony. They were not the worst empire in the galaxy, but they were bad enough. They enslaved weaker species and stripped worlds of resources. They ruled through fear and brutal efficiency. "What do we know about these Zephyrians?" Chen asked. Rodriguez pulled up another file. "Peaceful species. They've never been in a war. Their technology is focused on mining and art. No military ships. No weapons beyond basic mining tools. Population of about 12 million spread across 3 continents. 12 million people," Chen repeated quietly. She thought about Earth's history, about all the times her species had faced extinction, about all the times they had wished someone stronger would come to help. "Admiral," said Park carefully, "the Galactic Council has already refused to intervene. The other major powers are staying out of it. Even if we wanted to help, Kalara Prime is 60 light-years from our nearest base. By the time we could get there, ... "How long?" Chen asked. "With our fastest ships, for days minimum." Chen stood and walked to the large window that looked out at Terra Station. The massive space station orbited Earth's moon, serving as headquarters for humanity's growing fleet. Ships moved in and out of the docking bays like busy insects. Freighters carried goods between human colonies. Troll ships headed out to protect trade routes. And in the heavy construction bays, the pride of the human fleet waited, the 7th Fleet. 47 ships of war, each one built with the hard lessons humanity had learned during their rise to the stars. The humans had not always been the strongest species they met, but they had always been the most stubborn. When others would retreat, humans would stand and fight. When others would give up, humans would find another way. "Ma'am," Rodriguez had followed her to the window. "Are your orders?" Chen was quiet for a long moment. She remembered her grandfather's stories about World War II, about ordinary people who risked everything to save strangers. She thought about her daughter, who was studying art at the university on Mars. What would happen to her if some alien empire decided humans were too weak to resist? "Prep the 7th Fleet," she said finally. The room went silent. Rodriguez and Park exchanged looks. Admiral Rodriguez said slowly, "The 7th Fleet That's our primary battle group? 3 dreadnoughts, 12 heavy cruisers, 20 destroyers, and support ships. That's enough firepower to fight a major war. I know what's in the 7th Fleet, Commander. But for a rescue mission, we could handle this with a destroyer and maybe a support ship. Chen turned from the window to face her officers. Her gray eyes were hard as steel. Tell me, Commander, what do you think happens if we send 1 destroyer? Rodriguez thought about it. Well, the Vorthon would probably run. 12 ships against 1 might seem like good odds, but they've heard about human weapons. They'd probably decide the mining colony isn't worth the risk. And then what? They'd leave, find another target. Some other peaceful species that doesn't have humans to call for help. Exactly. Chen walked back to the holographic display. The Vorthan Empire has been expanding for 50 years. They pick on species that can't fight back. They've never faced real resistance because no one wants to risk a war over strangers. She touched the display, and the image changed to show a map of local space. Red dots marked Vorthan territory, blue dots showed human colonies, yellow dots were neutral worlds. Look at this pattern, Chen continued. Every world they've taken was isolated, defenseless, and far from major powers. They're bullies, and bullies only understand one thing. Overwhelming force, Park said quietly. Exactly. If we send 1 ship, they learn that humans will help, but only with minimal effort. If we send the entire 7th Fleet, they learn that humans don't do anything halfway. Rodriguez was still frowning. Admiral, with respect, isn't that excessive? We're talking about total war capability for what should be a simple rescue operation. Chen smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. Commander, let me tell you something. About human military doctrine. There is no such thing as excessive force when innocent lives are at stake. Our ancestors had a saying, walk softly and carry a big stick. Well, the 7th Fleet is the biggest stick we have. She activated the intercom system that connected to the entire station. This is Admiral Chen to all department heads. Prepare. The 7th Fleet for immediate deployment. Full battle configuration. All ships to be ready for jump in 6 hours. The responses came back quickly. Engineering acknowledged. Medical prepared for possible casualties. Supply ships loaded extra. Ammunition and spare parts. Admiral, said Rodriguez, what about the politicians? Shouldn't we check with Earth Command before deploying our main battle fleet? I'll handle the politicians, Chen said firmly. My orders are to protect human interests and maintain peace. In our sector, the Zephyrians asked for help. They're offering trade agreements and cultural exchange. That makes them potential allies. She looked at the star map again, focusing on the small yellow dot that marked Kalara Prime. Besides, she added softly, 12 million people are about to die if we don't act. That's not a political problem. It's a moral one. Hours later, the 7th Fleet began jumping toward Kalara Prime. The Zephyrians had asked for help. They were about to discover what happened when humans decided to answer that call. Commander Vexgoth stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the final stages of the conquest. In 3 more days, Kalara Prime would be completely under Vorthan control. The mining equipment would be repaired and the surviving Zephyrians would be working in their own mines as slaves. It was efficient. It was profitable. It was exactly how the Vorthan Empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past 50 years. Status report, he ordered. Sector 7 is secure, reported his tactical officer. The remaining Zephyrians have retreated to the deep mines. Our troops are using gas grenades to force them out. Good. What about their orbital facilities? The space station is ours. No resistance. We found interesting data about their mining operations. The rare metal deposits are even larger than our intelligence suggested. Vexgoth nodded with satisfaction. The gray-skinned commander was tall even for his species, standing nearly 8 feet in height. His black uniform was decorated with the silver marks of his many victories. He had conquered 12 worlds for the Empire and never lost a single. Battle, sir, called the sensor operator from across the bridge. I'm detecting hyperspace distortions. Something is coming out of jump space. Probably another mining ship returning home, Vexgoth said without concern. Destroy it when it arrives. Sir, The distortion is too large for a mining ship. Massive. That got Vexgo's attention. He walked over to the sensor station and looked at the readings. The numbers made no sense. Are your instruments working correctly? Yes, sir. I've run 3 diagnostics. The readings are accurate. Then what exactly is coming out of hyperspace? Before the sensor operator could answer, space itself seemed to explode with light. Ship after ship materialized in perfect formation around Calera Prime. Not one ship. Not 2 ships. 47 vessels of war appeared as if summoned by some ancient magic. Report, Vexgoth shouted. 47 ships, sir. Unknown design. They're arranging themselves in battle formation around our fleet. Vexgoth stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The unknown ships were huge. The largest one was 3 times the size of his flagship. Weapon ports glowed along their hulls like angry red eyes. These were not merchant vessels or exploration ships. These were warships built for one purpose only. Have they made contact? He asked. Yes, sir. Incoming transmission on all frequencies. Put it on the main screen. The face that appeared was unlike any species Vexgoth had ever seen. The alien was clearly female with short gray hair and pale skin. Her eyes were small, but bright, and they looked at him with the cold intensity of a predator. This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Force, the alien said. Her voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel. Give exactly 1 minute to begin withdrawing from this system, or we will withdraw you ourselves. Permanently. Vexgoth felt his blood chill. Terran. He had heard that name before in intelligence. Briefings. Humans. The new species that had appeared in this sector of space. 20 years ago. They were supposed to be traders and explorers, not warriors. Sir, whispered his tactical officer, their ships are targeting us. I count over 300 weapon systems aimed at our fleet. Impossible. No species builds ships like that for peaceful exploration. Sir, I'm reading massive power signatures from their vessels. Their shields are stronger than our main battle cruisers. Their weapons are... Sir, I've never seen energy readings like this. Vexgoth activated his own communication system. This is Commander Vexgoth of the 4th and 3rd Fleet. This system is now under Imperial control. We claim it by right of conquest. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The human admiral's expression did not change. Commander, you seem to misunderstand the situation. You're 12 ships facing 47. Your weapons are old. Your shields are weak. Your tactics are predictable. The only choice you have is whether you leave this system under your own power or as debris. You dare threaten the Vorthan Empire? I'm not threatening you, Commander. I'm educating you. Lesson 1. Humans do not abandon their friends. Lesson 2. When humans say they will help, they mean it. Lesson 3. We brought enough ships to handle anything you might call for backup. On the planet's surface, Captain Nexera watched the impossible scene unfold on her tactical display. The mining station's sensors could barely comprehend what they were seeing. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the Vorthan fleet like a pack of hunters cornering prey. Captain, said Engineer Kolmos, his voice filled with wonder. They came. They actually came. Not just one ship, whispered Vinalta from the communication station. An entire fleet. Nexera counted the ships on her screen. More vessels than her peaceful world had ever seen in one place. Each one bristled with weapons that could crack a moon. The humans had not sent a rescue ship. They had sent an invasion force. Are they talking to us? Dexara asked. Yes, Captain. Admiral Chen is requesting permission to send medical teams. To the surface? Medical teams? She says they have doctors and emergency supplies ready. They want to help our wounded. Back in space, Commander Vexgoth was running out of time. 30 seconds left of the human ultimatum. His fleet was powerful enough to conquer most worlds, but these human ships were in a different class entirely. Their smallest destroyer was larger than his heavy cruisers. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, recommend we withdraw. We are outnumbered and outgunned. The Empire does not retreat from unknown aliens, Vexgoth snarled. Sir, with respect, the Empire has never faced anything like this. Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication system again. 10 seconds, Commander. I suggest you use them. wisely. Vexgoth looked at his fleet, then at the human ships surrounding them. Pride warred with survival instinct. The Vorthan Empire had built its reputation on crushing weaker opponents. But these humans were not weak. They had answered a distress call with enough firepower to fight a major war. 5 seconds, Admiral Chen announced. All ships, Vexgoth said through gritted teeth. Prepare to withdraw from the system. Wise choice, came the Admiral's reply. You have 2 hours to collect your ground forces and leave. Any ship still in this system after that will be considered hostile. As the Vorthan ships began powering up their jump engines, Captain Nexera realized something that would change everything. The humans had not just saved her people. They had sent a message to the entire galaxy. The age of easy conquest was over. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, there was a species that would cross the void to protect strangers. The bullies had just met their match. Commander Vexgoth stared at the human fleet for 30 long seconds. His pride burned like acid in his chest. The Vorthan Empire had never backed down from a fight. His own reputation was built on victory after victory against weaker species. To retreat now would mark him as a coward. Sir, his tactical officer urged quietly, we should withdraw. Those ships are beyond anything we've ever faced. No, Vexgoth said, his voice cold as space. The Empire does not run from aliens. All ships, attack formation. Target their flagship first. Make the bridge crew exchange worried glances. But they followed orders. The 12 Vorthan cruisers turned toward the massive human dreadnought at the center of the enemy formation. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched the Vorthan ships change course. She had hoped they would be smart enough to leave. She took no pleasure in what was about to happen, Admiral said. Commander Rodriguez, they're powering weapons. I can see that. Chen's voice was calm. Signal all ships. Weapons free. Rules of engagement are to disable if possible, destroy if necessary. Ma'am, should we try to contact them again? They made their choice, Commander. Now they get to live with it. She paused. Or not. The first shots came from the Vorthan fleet.
Ow.
Red energy beams lanced through space toward the human ships. Weapons were powerful enough to crack a small moon. They struck the human shields and simply disappeared, absorbed like raindrops hitting an ocean. Return fire, Chen ordered. The human response was swift and terrible. Railgun rounds the size of cars accelerated to incredible speeds. They punched through Vorthon shields as if they were made of paper. The lead Vorthon cruiser shuddered as its armor cracked open. Atmosphere vented into space in glittering clouds. Of ice, target their weapons and engines, Chen commanded. I want prisoners, not corpses. The battle was less a fight than a lesson in military technology. The Vorthan ships had been designed to intimidate weaker species. The human ships had been built to fight wars against unknown enemies among the stars. There was no comparison. Vorthan missiles streaked toward the human destroyers. Point defense systems tracked each projectile with computer precision. Laser turrets swiveled and fired in perfect sequence. Every missile exploded safely away from its target. Not one got through. Meanwhile, human weapons carved the Vorthan fleet apart with surgical precision. Each shot was calculated to disable rather than destroy. Engine rooms exploded, leaving ships dead in space. Weapon batteries vanished in controlled detonations. One by one, The Vorthan cruisers went dark. Commander Vexkoth watched his fleet die around him. His own ship bucked as human railgun rounds tore through the rear sections. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red as systems failed throughout the ship. "Sir, we've lost engines and main weapons," reported his tactical officer. "Hull breaches on decks 5 through 12. Preventing atmosphere. Damage report from the fleet. 8 ships disabled, 2 destroyed, 1 trying to escape." Vexkoth closed his eyes. In 15 minutes, the humans had reduced his proud fleet to scrap metal. The ship that tried to run wouldn't make it far. Human vessels were already moving to intercept. Incoming transmission from the human flagship announced. The communication officer put it through. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen. She looked exactly the same as before the battle. Calm, professional, utterly in control. "Commander Vexkoth," she said, "I'm prepared to accept your surrender. Your ships are disabled. Your crews need medical attention. Further resistance will only cost lives, and if I refuse, then I will reduce your ships to atoms and rescue your survivors from the wreckage. The choice is yours." Vexkoth looked around his ruined bridge. Half his crew was injured. The ship was dying around them. He had led his people into a battle. They could never win. "I surrender," he said quietly. "Good. Prepare to receive boarding parties. Our medical teams will treat your wounded. Any crew member who cooperates will be treated according to the Galactic Conventions of War." The communication ended. Within minutes, human shuttles were docking with the disabled Vorthan ships. The boarding parties were not the savage conquerors Vexkoth expected. They were professional soldiers accompanied by doctors and medics. The planet's surface, Captain Nexara watched in amazement as human medical shuttles landed near the burning cities. Soldiers in white armor emerged, carrying supplies and medical equipment. They moved quickly but carefully, helping both Zephyrion and Vorthon wounded without distinction. Captain called Engineer Kolmos from the communication station. "Admiral, Chen is requesting permission to land medical teams at our facility. Of course, tell them they are welcome. She also says they have emergency food supplies and equipment to help repair our mining operations." Thexara felt tears in her compound eyes. The humans had not just saved her people, they were helping them rebuild. When was the last time any species had shown such kindness to strangers? A few hours later, Admiral Chen stood in the ruins of Kellara Prime's capital city. Human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian miners to put out the fires. Teams treated the wounded in temporary field hospitals. Supply ships dropped food and clean water for the refugees. Commander Rodriguez approached with a datapad. "Final casualty report, Admiral. We lost no ships. Minimal damage to 3 destroyers. The Vorthun lost 2 ships destroyed, 10 disabled. We have 800 prisoners. Zephyrian casualties? Surprisingly light. Most of their people made it to the deep shelters when the attack began. We're looking at maybe 2,000 wounded, mostly minor injuries." Chen nodded. "What about the Vorthan ground forces? Surrendered as soon as their fleet was defeated? Turns out they're not very brave when they don't have orbital support." A group of Zephyrians approached them. Captain Nexara led the delegation, her forearms carrying a beautiful crystal sculpture that seemed to glow with inner light. Admiral Chen Nexara said in careful English, "My people wish to thank you. We called for help, and you brought an entire fleet." "It's what we do," Chen replied simply. "We have prepared gifts for you and your crew. Art from our finest craftsmen, access to our rarest mineral deposits, cultural exchanges between our peoples." Chen accepted the crystal sculpture. It was beautiful, carved with incredible skill into the shape of 2 hands reaching toward each other. "This is generous, Captain, but you don't need to pay us for helping you." "Then why did you come? What do humans gain from this?" Chen looked around at the damaged city, at her people working to help strangers they had never met before today. "We gained something more valuable than minerals or art," she said. "We gained friends." As the Zephyrian delegation returned to their people, Rodriguez moved closer to Chen. "Admiral, what happens now? Word of this battle will spread. Other species will want to know who these humans are." Chen smiled as she watched a human medic carefully bandaging a young Zephyrian's injured wing. "Then I guess they'll find out that when someone calls for help, humans answer, and we don't do anything halfway." The lesson had been taught. Now it was time to see who had been paying attention. 3 months after the Battle of Kellara Prime, the galaxy was a different place. News of the human fleet's overwhelming victory had spread faster than light itself, carried by traders, diplomats, and refugees across hundreds of star systems. On the waterworld of Aqua 7, the blue-skinned Nautilians gathered in their floating cities to discuss the strange reports. Their species had lived in fear of the Vorthan Empire for decades, always expecting invasion fleets to appear in their skies. "Is it true?" asked Elder Tittlewave, his gills fluttering with nervous energy. "Did these humans really destroy an entire Vorthan fleet?" "Not just destroy," replied Captain Reefsong, who had recently returned from a trading mission. "They captured most of it. Then they helped rebuild the world the Vorthon had attacked. They brought doctors and engineers. They shared their technology," the assembled Nautilians whispered among themselves. In their experience, powerful species took what they wanted and left. They did not help strangers for free. "What do these humans want in return?" asked another elder. "According to the reports, they want friendship, trade agreements, cultural exchange." Reefsong paused. "They want allies, not subjects." Similar conversations were happening on worlds across the galaxy. The crystalline hive minds of Sigma Draconis analyzed the tactical data and concluded that human military technology was at least 50 years ahead of anything they had seen. The nomadic Voidwalkers shared stories around their campfires about a species that would cross the darkness to protect strangers. But nowhere was the impact greater than in the halls of the Galactic Council Ambassador Krelfic of the Hegemony. Coalition stood before the assembled representatives and tried to maintain his composure. The lizard-like alien had been the Council's unofficial spokesperson for over 20 years. He was used to being in control of every situation. "The human problem must be addressed," he declared, his forked tongue flicking nervously. "They have upset the balance of power in this sector." "What balance?" asked Ambassador Singing Christel. "Of the melodic empire." Her musical voice carried a note of amusement. "You mean the balance where strong species prey on weak ones, while the Council does nothing? The established order has maintained peace for centuries." "What peace?" This came from Ambassador Steelwing of the Raptor clans. "The Vorthan have conquered 47 worlds in the past 50 years. The Darkstar Syndicate enslaves entire populations. The Blood Fleet raids frontier colonies for sport. We have order, not peace." Krelthic's scaled hide flushed darker with anger. "The humans acted without council approval. They deployed a battle fleet against a sovereign empire. This sets a dangerous precedent." "The precedent that bullies will be stopped?" asked Singing Christel sweetly. Before Krelthic could respond, the council chamber's doors opened. A new figure entered, and the entire room fell silent. It was Admiral Sarah Chen, flanked by 2 human diplomats. "Honorable representatives," Chen said, her voice calm and clear. "I am Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Force. I understand you have been discussing recent events." Krelthak recovered his composure first. "Admiral, your actions at Kellara Prime were a violation of galactic law. The Council demands an explanation." Chen smiled politely. "With respect, Ambassador, the Council refused to help when peaceful people called for aid. Someone had to act. The Galactic Council does not interfere in local conflicts. Then perhaps the Galactic Council needs to reconsider its policies." Chen activated a holographic projector. Images filled the air above the council chamber. "These are requests for help we have received in the past 3 months. 47 different worlds asking for human protection." The images showed desperate messages from dozens of species. Mining colonies threatened by pirates, trading posts under siege by slavers, peaceful worlds facing invasion by aggressive empires. "We cannot help them all," Chen continued. "We are one species with limited resources, but we will help as many as we can. You cannot simply appoint yourselves the galaxy's police force," Krelthic protested. "We are not trying to police the galaxy. We are trying to protect innocent people who have nowhere else to turn." Chen's voice hardened. "Since the Council seems unwilling to do so, Ambassador Singing Christelle leaned forward in her crystal chair. "What are you proposing, Admiral? A new approach. A defensive alliance of species willing to help each other. No more watching while bullies destroy peaceful worlds. No more letting fear decide who lives and who dies. And who would lead this alliance?" asked Steelwing. "No one. Everyone. Each member species contributes what they can. The Zephyrians offer rare minerals and artistic knowledge. The Nautiloans provide water purification technology. The Melodic Empire shares their advanced communication systems. Humans provide military protection and engineering expertise." Krelthik slammed his clawed hand on his desk. This is preposterous. You cannot simply reorganize galactic politics. Because you won one battle, we are not reorganizing anything, Chen replied calmly. We are offering an alternative. Species that want to remain under the current system are free to do so, but those who want something better now have a choice. Over the following weeks, that choice was made by world after world. The Nautiloans were the first to formally request human protection, offering their water technology in exchange for defense agreements. The crystalline hive minds followed, intrigued by human mathematics and engineering. The Raptor clans, longtime enemies of the Blood Fleet, eagerly joined any alliance that would help them strike back. On Calara Prime, Captain Nexara stood in her rebuilt city and watched human engineers working alongside Zephorian artists. The new buildings were stronger than before, designed to withstand orbital bombardment. But they were also beautiful, decorated with crystal sculptures that caught the light like captured rainbows. "The humans kept their promise," said Engineer Kolmos, now promoted to Chief of Reconstruction. "They said they would help us rebuild, and they have." "More than that," Dexera replied. "They have given us hope." The Vorthan Empire, meanwhile, was facing its own crisis. 3 more of their target worlds had requested human protection before invasion fleets could arrive. Their expansion had ground to a halt as species they had planned to conquer joined. The growing alliance instead, Emperor Voxthene called an emergency session of his war council. "How many worlds have we lost?" he demanded. 12 potential targets have joined the human alliance, reported his intelligence chief. Another 8. Are in negotiations? Our tributary states are asking questions about their obligations to the Empire. What about our military assets? The Third Fleet is still in human custody? The humans treat the prisoners well, but they refuse to return our ships. They say the vessels will be given back when we formally agree to respect the sovereignty of Alliance members. The Emperor's rage was cold and calculating. And the humans themselves? How many ships do they actually have? Known. Intelligence suggests they have at least 3 more fleets of similar size to the one that defeated Vexgoth, but they could have more. Their industrial capacity appears to be enormous. The Emperor considered this. The Vorthan Empire was strong, but it was built on conquering weaker opponents. A direct war with the humans would be costly and uncertain. Send a message to the human admiral, he said finally. Request a meeting. Perhaps it is time to discuss terms. In space above Earth, Admiral Chen read the Vorthan message with satisfaction. The galaxy's biggest bully wanted to negotiate. It was a good start. She looked out at the stars and thought about all the peaceful worlds out there. All the species that just wanted to live their lives without fear. The humans had taken the first step toward a better galaxy. Now they had to prove they could finish what they started. The message was clear across the stars. If you called for help, humans would answer. And they would bring enough force to make. Sure, the job got done right. The age of easy conquest was over, as the age of protection had begun.